Welcome back to Dangerous Comics. I'm your host, Dane Georges, and today we're looking at Legends of the Dark Knight number 38, or better known as Legends of the Dark Mite for this issue. And this is an issue written by Alan Grant and Kevin O'Neill. Now, Alan Grant had a lot of Batman background, doing some long run with Norm Brayfogle and others on Detective and on the Batman title. But this is a kind of a one-off issue of Legends of the Dark Knight. And Legends of the Dark Knight actually was the third Batman title announced and released kind of alongside the popularity of the 1989 Tim Burton Batman movie. And kind of a precursor, now DC publishes so many Batman titles and spin-offs. But this was the third title that they ever put out alongside Detective and Batman. And the third was Legends of the Dark Knight. And it was kind of supposed to be a place where creators could kind of do either one-off stories or maybe three-parters. Kind of notable ones are Batman Gothic by Grant Morrison. There's a Batman, the Venom story where Batman started to take and get addicted to Bane's Venom serum, and Shaman, a lot of other ones that are just kind of like these one-off little stories. A lot of them kind of taking place in the early Batman years until they got a little further in the series, and then they kind of just started to become either another book to be tied into like events like Nightfall or awesome one-off issues like this one, where just kind of a weird look at Bat-Mite, who is a character from the 50s and 60s. He was actually introduced with kind of with the implementation of the comics code. That's when the Batman stories started to get weirder and weirder, and kind of becoming a little bit more like Superman stories. And so this is from Detective Comics 267, first appearance of Bat-Mite. But Bat-Mite was just he's an imp from the fifth dimension, and he's really just a total ripoff of an imp from the fifth dimension that would mess with Superman. And that guy's name is Mixel, and he would arrive every year. They'd do like a story with him where Superman would have to trick him into saying his name backwards and sending him back to the fifth dimension. And so when the comics code was implemented and Batman comics started to get weirder and weirder, he also got an imp named Bat-Mite that was obsessed with him and watched all of his adventures from the fifth dimension and kind of based himself off of Batman and kind of would appear and make Batman's life hectic. So yeah, the little background on Bat-Mite. But I really wanted to take a look at this issue because of artist Kevin O'Neill. And sadly, Kevin O'Neill passed away way too soon at the age of 69 back in November of 2002. And just so sad. Such an amazing artist, probably best known for their work alongside Alan Moore on works such as League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Also did stuff for 2000 AD, Warlock, Martial Law. A lot of great work. But just an amazing creator with such a cool style that really works for kind of like these like horror tales, darker tales, but he also always finds a way to put some humor and yeah, just a really great artist that we lost way too soon and with such a unique style. And so I wanted to take a look at this this Batman issue with some Kevin O'Neill art because, don't have a ton of superhero stuff by him or DC stuff, and this is really kind of outside the norm and maybe one of the most violent Batman issues out there. So let's go ahead and dive right in. But starting off from the front, we get this really crazed look of a Batman. He's got like TNT on his belt. He's holding a gun that's smoking. He's dropping a bomb with Bat TNT. And that's the thing with Kevin O'Neill that we'll see throughout here. He just kind of packs in the jokes everywhere and not taking leaving any space wanting more or left. He just fills it up, and I really love just all these Bat-Mites around, all the goofy expressions. We get like this splatter of blood on the Bat logo. This is also in the 90s. It's 92, October 92, and I would have to speculate that a little bit of this is a kind of poking fun at where 90s comics are at the time and how violent they've gotten, and really kind of a cool look to kind of look at Bat-Mite, such a goofy character, under the lens of the violence of the 90s. And so right off the bat, we get this awesome spread, Legend of the Dark Might, letting us know this is kind of a different kind of Legends of the Dark Knight story. And really, like, just look at this amazing spread, just like how many Bat-Mites are there in here, and they're all different, all have funny expressions. There's just like, you can find little funny details everywhere, and really kind of like, I think Batman's back here, but obviously showing that he is secondary to the Bat-Mite story that we're going to be getting. So we got script by Alan Grant, art by Kevin O'Neill, color by Ollie Optics, and letters by the great John Workman. And this is interesting because you can tell there's some like early like computer 90s coloring going on here. A couple of like the gradients and stuff, but really like kind of subdued and well done for Kevin O'Neill's style. It really kind of like lets the art still be the focus, and it's still like before DC would change to more of like a bright white paper. It's kind of like in between. This is still like a little bit of a newsprint. So kind of interesting seeing that like more 90s computer coloring on this kind of like this format that was still kind of how they had been doing it before the transition. Yeah, it's just an awesome, let's just take in all these details. I love the forced perspective, but all these buildings are obviously drawn on whatever perspective, and kind of just showing you, like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's all about in service of the image, in service of the storytelling. So we start this story off with a bunch of characters that were just created for this story by Alan Grant and Kevin O'Neill. And our main character is Bob Overdog, or his Christian name Robert Overdog. And he is telling Batman this story as he's like all chained up in a straitjacket of what happened this night, and how he wasn't just on drugs, that there was this presence that came in and affected how the night went. And so got him telling him that Batman's just thinking, you're just a druggie, you're lying to me, but he wants to get the full story out of him. So we start the night that they're trying to raid this drug dealer. It's him and his two other friends, and just I think this is just such classic Kevin O'Neill, where, and I think it's really interesting throughout this issue. Kevin O'Neill would do a lot of like hand lettering throughout here, and we got John Workman on letters as well, who's very well known as like an amazing letterer, does amazing sound effects and everything. But I think throughout a lot of here, I kind of get the impression that Kevin O'Neill is handling a lot of that lettering himself, and you can feel like it really fits in the style. And like everyone has like lettering on their shirts, or it ain't funny on their like a t-shirt. They all have something like badass written on his jacket that lands right on his ass. Yeah, lethal weapon as an arrow pointing to the fist of this guy. It's just goofiness and like packing in the jokes everywhere. Like I was saying, they come in, they start shooting up this drug dealer, and he's in a water bed, so the water's just like flying everywhere. So good, such a good little joke. Bob saying that he didn't partake in any of the torture that went on to this drug dealer. He just might have partook a little bit in some of the drugs that they found. And then they throw back their little drug cocktails, all of them having a great time, and continue out on the night. And first thing that starts to go wrong is the drug dealer's girlfriend, after he was like killed and mutilated. And that's just the whole thing, this juxtaposition of like the goofiness and jokes that Kevin O'Neill's just shoving in here, along with this like gory horror of what was done to this drug dealer. And it's really throughout that kind of juxtaposition of style and joke and horror. And I think it works so beautifully. So we get the girlfriend running away, but as she does, she tries to get on this drain pipe that breaks off, and we get the first introduction of Batman coming into the story as he saves her. You can see a little bit of that like kind of computer coloring as like every bit of Batman's hand is kind of like a gradient as it's trying to like give us some depth, where I feel like Kevin O'Neill is really just drawing this as shapes, but really cool force perspective again there too. Yeah, so continuing, like, Batman's like, so what happened next, Bob? I know you, he's like, better late than never. He gets in here, he saves the girl, and then from here is kind of where Bob runs away, and his story kind of, this is where Batman loses him, and maybe the story kind of changes. We get this really cool transition, from kind of like as things were to then Bob rounds this corner, and all of a sudden, the drugs start to kick in. That cocktail that he took is maybe starting to affect him, and we get like a little bit of a difference in the color, and then all of a sudden, kind of like the objects around him come to life, and that is when we meet Bat-Mite as he comes in. And so this was some of the really cool like lettering that I was talking about. We get this awesome whoa with the eyeball in there and the skirt, and I just get the feeling that these are all handled by Kevin O'Neill himself rather than John Workman. But the caption boxes, I love the drop caps and everything, all really well done by John Workman. It really fits the style as well. And so, he's like not really believing what he's seeing, thinks this guy must be like a little figment of his imagination. And you see, he's got something written on his shirt to caution brain cells frying, this big old drug head. Oh, I also love that he's got a Batman earring, dangly earring. I feel like that's maybe a reference to like some of the thugs and mutants in The Dark Knight by Frank Miller. But yeah, he blasts Bat-Mite, but he just pops out of existence and disappears, zaps his gun, bonks him on the head with it, and he grows like a big wound or a big throbbing bump like you would in like a Looney Tunes cartoon. More of that just amazing like skewed backgrounds. And as this is happening, more of their like drug lackeys come. These are the guys that they were going to be selling the drugs to. I love this hot rod, and just full of like these amazing Kevin O'Neill details, like the handle is a rocket. I love the dude as the license plate, and the little bit of a reflection of the Bat-Mite as he is still around in the car. But he's telling them, like, I got a little bit of a problem. There's like a little tyke in a costume following me around. Shoot him, blast him. And these guys are like, he's like, just do it. Or they're like, shoot that cute little thing, just do it, I'll give you all this dope. And it's like, hell, I'd shoot myself for that, man. And then they start to blast Bat-Mite, who pops out of existence. Where'd he go? And then Bat-Mite, has to come in, and he's like, oh, well, I'll just has to become like a kind of Batman to face these kind of thugs, and he transitions from the cute little Bat-Mite to this like very like 90s hardcore Batman with his TNT on the belt and just like spikes and everything everywhere. Some of this with the neck stuff kind of reminds me of how Kelly Jones would draw Batman with like all of the neck bones pronounced. It is interesting throughout here. Kevin O'Neill drew, and I believe this is colored by him as well. It kind of looks like it's painted. He put there was like a blood splatter on the Bat logo, and I believe it's never colored like that after. It kind of looks like mustard stain afterwards. I don't know if that was DC being like, whoa, that's too far. You can't put blood on the Batman logo, but they did allow for it on the cover. I don't know if that's also like a Watchmen reference with the blood on the comedian's button. But so we get this amazing transition, and he's got like the drippy claws, drippy fangs, and he's just ready to like terrorize these guys. And here's where I'm talking about getting like the most violent Batman issue ever. He's just ripping these guys to shreds. He like cuts this guy's head off, doink, like makes this, like zaps him with one of his fingers. We get a little bit of that awesome drawing of the guy's skull coming through his head. He even just shoots this guy, making a hole through him with like the batarang coming through. He's got his Bat-Zuka, blasts him up, and just, I mean, I could spend all day talking about each of these panels. They are beautifully drawn, beautiful cartooning, and I do love that we have like this one gangster that's maybe like the most realistic amongst everyone else. Not even realistic, but just kind of more of like a DC style maybe. But then, Bob has these giant eyes, so does these guys as they're getting torn apart, just like pure terror. But he's like shoving TNT bat bomb into this guy's mouth and then just exploding him. Eyes are flying off straight, the ears both go, his chest flies, the feet and the hands just like explode. Like, where have you ever seen a Batman comic like this before? I don't know. I don't know if there is one. This is a very special comic with some very special creators, but we get he just eviscerated all of these guys. The only one that's left is Bob, and Bob tries to shoot him, and the bullets turn to flowers, and and so like Batman's saying, like, the evidence shows that you were the only one there. You eviscerated your friends, and he's like, I wouldn't shoot my own buddies, and he's like, convenient, none of them are alive to disagree. A really great Batman with the grimace, just all gums and open mouth. But I love how he just draws like this kind of like Batman all in shadow, very like blocky and everything too. So then, after shooting the bullets that turn to flowers, he runs in terror, and then this is where we're starting to see kind of like, maybe it's the trip, maybe it's Bat-Mite, but the city's kind of coming to life a little bit more, and he's in the guilt zone, so, maybe he did it, maybe he did it. But I love these eyes that are like appearing on like the fire escape and the light. Little of a weird choice with a little bit of a gradient that's in that cape, but that's a little bit of the 90s coloring coming through. But I really appreciate all the other kind of more flat coloring that's in here. So he gets him and then sucks him away to the fifth dimension, which is where Bat-Mite is from. And when we get there, we get this wacky view of what the fifth dimension is like, and it's just full of like, kind of like a little bit more of the 40s, 50s, 60s Batman stuff with like the giant typewriter, Clock King kind of stuff, Batman and his little weird Bat-copter, just like a bunch of goofiness. And there's Bat-Mite, Bat-Hound, Batman with his weird little like brainwave thing. So it's kind of like showing like, celebrating the weirdness of Batman. And then we also get like these other little imps of the fifth dimension that are also obsessed with Batman and his villains, and all of them are kind of like playing make-believe and just like constantly they get their kicks dressing up as superheroes from Earth and playing games with each other. Some life, huh? Kind of poking fun at comics, poking fun at the absurdity of comics. So he's in here, Bat-Mite comes and plays around, and then we get another view of like more DC characters as imps, and then we get a little appearance as the original imp himself, Mxyzptlk from Superman comics, and just really fun, as it's almost like Bat-Mite is playing like the Ghost of Christmas Future and stuff, or like that kind of role, showing Bob just what this fifth dimension is like. He then takes him to this house of windows where they kind of like, where the imps, you can kind of see them crowded up, where they watch our world. And from here we're seeing kind of what Batman went through after Bob disappeared, and he takes down the other two goons that Bob was with, and then Bat-Mite, to keep the game kind of going, interferes by making a piano drop out and fall on Batman. And oh my god, just look at this cartooning, and this guy's just like a circle with legs. Like, I love that leg forward, leg back. Like, that is just amazing cartooning. And just the comparison of like a Batman that's drawn a little bit more on style with this kind of stuff is so great. So kind of just like, and this will come back later, but this is just a part of the story that maybe Batman can't really explain, and maybe another part of, did Bob do this himself, or was really Bat-Mite part of this all along? But another window that Bat-Mite takes him to is to see like the people that he's affected, and he kind of sees this weird trip of that life is like beautiful and fragile, and he he says he was guilty of a terrible sin, and I could see tears. I could hardly see for tears as I turned to look at Bat-Mite. What are you doing to me? Who are you? And it's like Bat-Mite starts to become like angelic and like flying above him, and kind of like Bob Overdog has this kind of religious experience as he sees that he was wrong, and he apologized to this bat angel that's trying to make him see the error of his ways. And this is when we kind of transition back to the real world, and was this just that, or was that Bat-Mite? But he says, I'm sorry, Batman, I swear I'll never hurt anyone again. And kind of has this religious experience coming out the other end of this. And we then kind of get to where the story started, and we see that Batman has been interrogating Bob, who's in Arkham Asylum, saying, Bob saying, I've seen the light, Batman. I don't want to be a bad guy anymore. The Bat-Mite let me go so I could come back here and spread the gospel. I can do good in the world. So he's really had this religious experience. This light is like a halo above his head, but Batman's not having it. Batman says, no, I'm sorry, Overdog. The court declared you insane, not me. There's nothing I can do about it, and leaves him. Then kind of goes back to Commissioner Gordon and just saying, he can't really clear up the inconsistencies of that night. That piano flew at me while it was on a flat road, so I don't know how that happened. He says, and Overdog knew about it even though he wasn't there, so, I'll put it down to coincidence, but maybe it was something else, and then drives off. But look at this Batmobile, too, just freaking amazing. Like, I've never seen a Batmobile look like that. It's like a giant coffin almost with a bat face on the front. So yeah, just crazy Batmobile, and just kind of goes with kind of like the Kevin O'Neill world. And I love just kind of like, this typical Batman getting into such an insane Batmobile. It's got like this like chain, a mace with a chain on one side, another thing that would shoot batarangs, and it's basically like a three-wheeler, one wheel on the front, two on the side, and then drives off, And here we go back to Bob, who is, having to accept his fate, and Bat-Mite appears to kind of like, kind of egg him on a little bit, not really say anything, say like, hey, you say something to me, show him that I'm not crazy. And the people are like, oh, he's talking to himself, and then come and give him a shot, trying to put him down, calm him down a little bit. And we end on a really cool spread of, just a Batman pinup of Batman jumping down toward the villains. We get like this silhouette, and then there's Bat-Mite just hanging on his cape, always there for the fun, always right around to help Batman out. But just a really fun issue. We also get a call out in the letters that the next issue is going to be by writer-artist Brian Talbot, who we've talked about a little bit in Near Myths. So I'll definitely have to hunt that issue down. That sounds like a lot of fun. But yeah, I really love taking a look at these kind of like one-off stories, just kind of like zany, different kind of Batman stories that you maybe haven't seen before, but had to put this one under the lens and look at an amazing issue by Kevin O'Neill, written by Alan Grant, but and just had to look at some more Kevin O'Neill work, because he was definitely taken from us too soon, but left an amazing body of work. But yeah, and this has been Dangerous Comics, Legends of the Dark Knight, number 38. And if you'd love to support me, I'd love if you check out my comics on DaneGeorges.com. I have these self-published books that I do. Doom Skull, which is about an ex-supervillain that works at a grocery store with his minion. I've also got a few horror black and white zines, as well as a book of 4-panel webcomics that I would post on Instagram, Webtoons, and the like, and I would really appreciate if you would check those out, think about supporting my work, and once again, that's DaneGeorges.com. I'll have that all linked in the description below, but I will see you next time. Remember to think and read dangerously. See ya!